The goal of this video is to help you to understand what you will have to do each week in this course. When in doubt, you should always go to the current week in the modules area and look at that week's overview. So let's pretend it's week 3 of the course and I didn't know what to do. I click on modules and I go to week 3 in the week 3 overview. You can see that this overview contains a bunch of information about what we're doing that week. So first we have some information about the material that we're going to cover. Then we have a list of all of the assignments and tasks, including links to videos that you need to watch. And finally, there's some supplemental materials, usually in the form of sections of the textbook that are pertinent to the material that we're covering in that week. The first few weeks of the semester can feel a bit hectic, and this is especially true in the fall semester, and even more so if you're taking a lot of courses. There's a lot going on, and you're not really familiar with what is expected of you. I'll send out a lot of reminder assignments early on in the semester, but you should never hesitate to reach out if you have any questions at all. You can either email me or you can go to the discussion boards and you can post a question there and I'll answer it there. Once we're past the first few weeks of the semester, generally the weeks in the course will look pretty similar to each other. You'll get used to what you're required to do, and things will feel a lot more organized. So for the rest of the video, what I want to cover is what does a typical week look like in this course, and then what other types of assignments might we have to do. So let's look at week 3, because week 3 is kind of past the first few weeks where we have some orientation assignments and things are a bit different. So if I go to week 3, we can see that there are 2 due dates, Wednesday and Sunday. So generally speaking, each week we're covering some block of material. On Wednesday, you're going to be asked to watch some videos that are more conceptual. They try to give you a sense of what's going on. And then you're going to take what's known as a conceptual quiz. You can attempt this multiple times, as many times as you'd like. And then on Sunday, there will be another set of videos. These are what I call problem videos, where I walk through steps for solving certain types of problems, either by hand or using software. You'll also have a homework assignment in WebWork that will let you practice these problems and teach you how to do some of the problems. And finally, you'll have to submit some written work in Gradescope. This is generally speaking how the weeks look. We have a block of material, we have some conceptual videos and a conceptual quiz due on Wednesday, and on Sunday we have some problem videos, a homework set, and some written work. It's important to note these are due dates, not suggested dates for starting the assignments. I try to make assignments due 2 weeks or available 2 weeks in advance of when they're due, and I highly recommend starting things early. You don't have to start a week in advance, but definitely don't start an assignment that's due on Sunday. That's not a good idea. So this is the general structure, conceptual and then problem. There are some other types of assignments that will come up throughout the semester. The first type, just to mention, is these orientation assignments. For instance, watching this video, these will disappear after the first few weeks of the course. Other assignments that I have, every 2 weeks, I have what's known as a check-in assignment. So here we see the week 2 check-in. This assignment is just a place where you can ask me questions or give me feedback about the course. You have to complete it, but you don't really have to ask a question if you don't have one. You can just say that you have no questions. So that's a different type of assignment that is not every week. We also have, for instance, in week 4, we're done talking about linear systems. Well, I guess we're never really done talking about them, but we've gone through this whole section on linear systems, and there's a quiz on linear systems. I call these unit quizzes, and the idea of these quizzes is that they're meant to let you get a sense for whether you're prepared in terms of your understanding of that material for the exams. You can take them as many times as you'd like, and so I recommend starting them early. And really, again, the goal is to see if you know enough of the material such that you would do well on an exam. The only other type of assignment in the course are exams. The first exam is in week 6. And I'll send some more information about exams closer to their dates. You take them remotely. You have to use proctoring software, so you'll have to download something onto your computer, but you won't have to go to a certain place to take the exams. At this point, the main thing to note about the exams is when they are. So if you go to the syllabus and coursework and grading, and we scroll down to the exams, I thought it said when the exams were here. Apparently it doesn't. So I guess what we can do is we can look at the modules. We can see that week 6 is the first exam. Week 10 or week 11 is the second exam. And then the final exam is during exam week, from the 15th to the 17th. All right, so a few final points. This may seem like a lot, but once we get into the semester, I think you'll really get a good sense for what you have to do every week. One thing that you can do, this is optional, but you can do it if you want, is I've set these modules up so that you can keep track of what you've completed. So for instance, back to week 3, let's say you've watched these conceptual videos, but you have a lot going on and you just want to know what you've done, you can click this mark as done button. And so then when you go back and look at the modules, you'll get a little check mark next to it. I don't keep track of this. It's not for your grade or anything like that. I just know that in the past, students have found it useful to be able to keep track of what they've done and what they haven't done, so they don't have to write it down somewhere else. So what are the important takeaways of this video? I know, because that was a lot of information. I would say that the most important thing, or the two most important things, one, when in doubt, whatever week it is, go to that week's overview. The overviews always contain all assignments and all resources for that week. And so as long as you're looking at the overviews, you cannot possibly miss anything. And then the second thing, which is advice beyond this course, is when in doubt, ask questions. If you're unsure of anything, email me or post in the discussion board so that I or someone else can answer it. The only decision that's a bad decision if you have a question is to be quiet, right? If you don't ask it, you're never going to figure it out. If you're unsure of anything, please reach out and let me know. Hopefully that video was helpful in giving you a bit of a sense for what this course is going to look like. And so at this point, I would say, go back to the course orientation, finish the remaining items in the course orientation, and then you'll be ready to start working on the actual material in the course.